history of astronomy is one where bigger telescopes become bigger buckets to collect light. All you're trying to do is get as much light as possible.
Zoom into stars that are so far away. Maybe they're not far away, but all cameras photograph the same sort of thing.
There is no depth to the stars. They're all here, all in the same level.
They're going to use these crazy, outrageous numbers. 55 billion, 88 light years away, right? They're going to say all this stuff. Yeah. Meanwhile, guys like Mikey Smith is going out there. They're like, you mean that right there? And now it's starting to come out. This information is starting to come out where the stars are no longer a place to hide for these people. It's not a place where they could say, oh, the ball, look, it's a ball up there.
Okay, so we know and we saw that all telescopes, whatever they are, either small telescopes, homemade telescopes, or extra large telescopes, all give approximately the same images of stars. Either you got a small, blurred spot of light, or a big one, or bigger one, or a huge one, but it's all like blurred. The thing that made us realize that, understand that, is actually Mikey Smith's pictures, because he took pictures not with a telescope, with binoculars, combined with a cell phone, and the pictures he's got, showed us for the first time, different shapes of stars. Now these pictures are important because not only did they show us different shapes of the stars, but also that the stars themselves seem embedded into some kind of like black dark matter, thick matter, and that actually it seems that there is no depth in space, that there's nothing beyond the stars, that they are all at the same level. So now we see that these simple pictures taken by a simple man with simple instruments are on the verge of destabilizing the entire astronomical community. Okay, now telescopes do work fine, when you take pictures here on Earth of like faraway objects like a house, a mountain, whatever. And that is explainable because, both, the telescope and the target, the objective, the thing you're looking at, are in the same light. They're both in the same, daylight. So, of course, there's no problem, and, you're going to have a clear picture of what you're looking at. Now, when you want to take a look at a strong light in the dark, far away, all you're going to see is just a light. All you're going to amplify is the light. And actually, the telescopes are made to amplify the light, to collect as much light as possible, and to amplify the light.
The history of astronomy is one where bigger telescopes become bigger buckets to collect light, because what they're doing is simple. All you're trying to do is get as much light as possible.
Now, when you zoom with your telescope or even with a regular camera on a projector or a floodlight, so of course in the beginning you're going to see like a big blurred spot of light because it's strong light coming out of it. But as you zoom in, you're going to slowly realize that there is like a frame, around that light, and that light is being provided by some kind of a structure, that is behind it or surrounding it. Now, Mikey's pictures started to show us that there is a structure, behind the star, and that actually, of course, that light is being provided by something that is behind, which you cannot see with the telescopes. Understand? Now, the big question is how come simple binoculars combined with a simple cell phone can give us much better pictures than any other telescopes in the world? So now the answer is, I don't know. But, maybe it's because the binoculars have a much more simpler design. It's just like lens. They have no like complex games of mirrors inside. They do not amplify the light as much as the telescopes, maybe. I don't know. Also, the cell phone, is not amplifying light. It just sees what you see. So all this we don't know. It's also possible that the conditions, atmospherical conditions, those pictures were taken into special. We don't know. But the fact is that these pictures are genuine and they are not the product of like any kinds of aberrations or distortions whatsoever. Now, what's very suspicious about all these, large telescopes in the world, all these extra large telescopes and state-funded, observatories, university observatories and everything, is that not only they don't provide us with more details, of stars, they all show you like still blurred spots of light all over the place, but they seem not to care about the stars that are close to us. They seem to care only into the depth of space, and to show us that space has a depth, and that the blurred spots of light that they discover now, they're not here, but they're like hundreds of millions of light years away, or billions of light years away. You understand? When logic will want to use these telescopes to zoom on what's already close, in order to see if there is no structures behind those stars, if we cannot get more details of those stars, and they don't. You understand? So what we suspect is that all this money being spent and all these observatories have but one objective, is to make you believe that space has depth, that there is depth in space. Not to tell you about the stars, not to give you more details about the stars, just to make you believe that space is deep. Understand? Now, when we know that one of NASA's main objectives is to make us believe that there is no dome above the Earth, with all their fake moon missions and fake space missions and fake images and computer generated, images and videos of space. So it would make sense, of course, that they could spend so much money in all these observatories and all these, huge telescopes and, extra large telescopes, in order to enforce that idea that there is, depth in space. You understand? So it makes sense in that huge, scam of theirs, there'll be some logic in doing this. Okay, so as we said before, we know that, telescopes are built to get as much light as possible, to amplify the light. And this is maybe one of the reasons why you cannot see details of the stars, because all you can see is like more and more light. But besides that, we also know that there are ways to manipulate the structure of mirrors of glass in order to deviate the light in many ways. One of them being to have the light surround an object in order to make that object invisible. So now it's possible that there are also all kinds of manipulation of scientific ways to manipulate glass and light in order for these stars not to be ever seen. It's also possible, but we don't know at that point.
Can you bend light completely around an object so the object becomes invisible? And the answer is yes. It's well within the laws of physics that if you could govern the atomic structure of glass, then light would bend in a way such that it would completely go around an object, so anything inside that object becomes invisible.
Now, when we think a little bit, if space was as deep as they say, how come they need so many CGI pictures of deep space, so many computer generated, videos of deep space, artistic, drawings of deep space and of space in general, of the Earth, taken from space? You understand? So that's one thing. The other thing is that, again, if you keep on thinking a little bit, when you take a piece of paper or leaf, tree leaf, and you take a microscope and you zoom into this, very thin, pieces of papers or leaves, you can see that there is some kind of depth also. You can see like layers of fibers and, molecules or whatever it is. So you can go deep into this, but it doesn't mean that there is depth into that, that leaf or that piece of paper. Same thing when you look in space. You can go and see different layers behind layers, but actually everything is right there. You understand? Now, besides technology and science and modern science, which are important, we also have ancient books that are also important, for they describe the very mechanisms of this Earth. Now, Mikey's pictures do prove these books right, while NASA's pictures and those big observatories and big telescopes, pictures and videos tend to disprove them. So just to let you know that maybe there are other objectives, other goals beyond the goals of all this thing that surrounds us, and that maybe we are in the middle of a much bigger war than we think, and that all this is not just about proving the shape of the Earth. It goes much deeper than that. Now we are sharing with you here an ongoing investigation. There is still a long way to go. We still have so many things to understand, so many things to learn, and it will take time and effort, because in the way to learn things, we also have to unlearn what we have been taught, and this indeed takes lots of time and effort, but we're getting there.